Hello everyone and welcome to the Silvavine podcast with your host Michelle Da Silva. A podcast that focuses on creating healing and awareness. In today's episode, Michelle will be speaking to the lovely Jane Greer. Jane is an animal communicator. She can talk to animals. Yes, that's right, she can actually speak to animals. So stay tuned because you are not going to want to miss this episode.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Silvavine podcast with me as your host Michelle Da Silva. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I am somebody who loves animals and especially dogs. I've got 2 dogs of my own and I'm so excited to be recording this episode. We have the lovely Jane Greer, who is the owner of
Hi.
Pure Soul Chatz. Sorry, I don't know if I pronounced that properly, Jane, but you'll tell me
You
in a
did?
sec.
Yep, that's fine.
She is a visionary in animal communication and intuitive guidance, and she is a Reiki healer. So thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, really. I'm excited to be here.
Now,
I love talking about this.
Yes. And I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. Now, I mean, how did this all come about? You're actually able to communicate with animals.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting because animals have actually been my life for a very, very long time. And I've always been a bit known as the sort of crazy cat lady. And I'm, just a bit off the wall about stuff. I worked at the RSPCA here in Australia for 5 years. And then I had an Indigenous healing one day and I was talking about my love of the animals. And she said to me, hey, why don't you go to this lady? She teaches people how to communicate with animals. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's really embarrassing to admit, but I thought she was going to tell me about, when they make this sound, it means this. And when they make that sound and actually almost have a different language. But obviously that was not the case at all. And it was all about energetically connecting with the animals. And so I did the course and she said to me, one of the biggest things will be not trusting yourself. And so I did a bit of a practice, and I don't know if you can hear my cat Baxter actually in the background here because he does like to whinge a little bit. He was sitting on my bed one day, and I also had my other 2 cats with me, and he walked down the bed, and I said to him, "Where are you going?" And just so clearly, he said in the back of my, in my head, I heard him say, "I know my place," because he was the last cat here. And I was like, wow, who was that? Oh, my goodness. And from that moment onwards, it kind of started. And I've done loads and loads and loads of practicing. And, I went through so much. Like now I can connect in a lot easier. But when I very first started, I'd be grounding, I'd be laying on the floor, I'd be meditating, I'd be, trying so hard to connect in. It's a lot easier now. But it took a lot of practice and a real belief in myself and an understanding of my intuition for me to actually believe what I was saying. So that's when it started a couple of years ago. But quite interestingly, one of my best friends over in England had lost her cat a year or so ago, a couple of years ago. And it was a year and a half, in fact. And I found him, but I didn't want to tell her that it was me because I thought she'd think I'd completely lost the plot, So I just said that I'd got an animal communicator friend and this is what she'd found, and he'd be back on the 6th day and this was where he is. And he was back on the 6th day. It was exactly where I said he was. And that was all just lovely. And then I went back to England last year to see some friends and I met up with her and I said to her, that wasn't an animal, that was me. And she said, I know. And I said, how? And she said, because you told me years ago you could do this and you closed it down. And for the life of me, I just can't remember ever saying that. But apparently I did. So, yeah.
Wow.
But it's a bit of a journey because as you can imagine, when you tell people that you communicate energetically with animals, they think you're completely crazy or they're just like, what even is that? So, yeah it's a bit of a gift to be given.
I mean, that's just it. I think anybody, if you were to say to them, there's a lot of people, especially I know you're in Australia and I'm in the UK, and we are big, dog lovers in the UK, and we love our pets, and we can definitely see they bring us joy, they bring us emotions, they help with our emotions when we're feeling down and sad.
Yeah.
You know, they sleep with us in the bed and everything, and they respond to us. So these definitely, we can all be witness to. There is some sort of emotions that animals do feel. So why not being able to pick up their energy? Because we pick up each other's energy. So why wouldn't we be able to pick up, you know, animals' energy?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, you know, something else that they have that we have. I mean, I believe that they come down here to teach us lessons. They're pretty perfect, and every animal is divinely aligned to the person that they should be with, and they're here to teach that person lessons. But in the course of their journey, they also get trapped emotions the same as we do, you know. So, you know, if an animal is anxious, you know, I have a cat here, Hugo, and he's a very worried boy, and he was very worried from the minute I got him. I mean, he's not worried now because I've been able to work with him, but he had several trapped emotions that related to his time as a very young kitten that gave him this fear. And that fear didn't come out of him as fear, but it was stuck in his body as fear. And it changed his ways and his personality. So, you know, I'm able to release those as well, which really brings an animal so much comfort, you know, and it changes them.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are people out there, as you said earlier, who would think this is absolutely madness and, you know, actually believe that you are able to do this and have this wonderful gift.
Yeah.
But we do have Karis on the show with us this morning. Would you like to explain a little bit about Karis?
Oh, hi.
Yes, I would. Yeah. So Keris contacted me through, I think it was one of her friends, but she was incredibly skeptical about what I could do because, you know, well, why wouldn't you be? It's just, it sounds very off the wall. And she had a beautiful, beautiful dog called Cooper, who still to this day remains one of my favorite animals ever. And he was lunging at other dogs. He was very unhappy. He didn't like one of the dogs in the house. And he was just genuinely not a happy boy. And Keris was at the end of her tether with him, and she came to me and said, look, I don't know what else to do. Like, you know, can you help him? And we had a long conversation about him, and also found out that he was very much missing his friend who had passed away the year before, Nala. And I was able to bring Nala into the healing as well, and she stayed with him during that whilst I released his emotions, while we spoke to him. I then went out for a run, and whilst I was running, my guides came in and showed me this toy that Cooper could potentially walk with in his mouth. And I contacted Keris, and I said to him, look, I'm seeing this. I don't know if it's going to help. We could try it. Has he got a toy? And she said, well, he has, but I don't know if that'll work or not, but I'm willing to give it anything a go. And she did. She walked with him. And I think about an hour later, I got this picture, this beautiful, beautiful picture, which is up on my wall actually now, of Cooper with a toy in his mouth, smiling like you wouldn't believe. And he'd had such a different walk. He'd ignored all the other dogs. He'd ignored the cat. He'd walked beside her. And even now it sort of brings the emotions up because I was just so pleased. He was so anxious and worried. And and then just a few months ago, I was on Facebook, and Keris and I have since obviously become friends. We didn't know each other before. And I saw this video of Cooper just running around the field. And honestly, it just brought such joy to my heart, really.
Wow. Welcome, Karis.
Hi.
So, yes, tell me a little bit about more on your situation. Did you first look at it and think this is absolutely crazy? Surely this can't work. You know, what were your thoughts around this whole thing going forward?
Yeah, so obviously Cooper, I mean, he'd been increasingly withdrawn. We obviously put it down to losing Nala. And I was getting desperate. I took him to the vets, and they, you know, nothing physically wrong with him. And I think she even said to me, "Oh, he's probably just had enough," which was quite upsetting. You know, I was thinking, does he actually want to live with us anymore? You know, he didn't particularly enjoy the other dogs. And then our mutual friend put something on Facebook about how Jane had helped her rescue dog. And I thought, oh, I was a bit sceptical. And Jane being in Australia, I thought there's absolutely no way this is going to happen. But I felt like I should contact her. I just felt like I should. And I did. I didn't tell my husband at the time because I thought he'd think I was mad. And I had a long chat with Jane. And she speak. The thing that did it for me was that he actually, because he was really withdrawn, he wouldn't come into the sitting room or anything. He actually that night came to the living room and he laid down on the carpet in front of us with the other dogs, and it was just like, well, what's going on? Because he hadn't done that for months and months. You know, and I was speaking to Jane, and she talked to us about Nala, who we lost quite suddenly, and you know, we were like really upset about that, and we couldn't really understand why. And Nala had spoken to Jane, and she gave us a lot of comfort. You know, she told us things that, you know, I hadn't told Jane. So, you know, I just, yeah, I do believe in it all now. So, converted.
And
Converted, I love that.
Yeah.
And the things that Jane shared with you, obviously, you know, provided you with a bit of knowledge and a little bit of insight to be able to handle the situations better also.
Oh yes, yeah. I just feel like we understand Cooper better now, and it, you know, and it's opened our minds to how we feel, you know, about the other dogs and how they might be feeling. But yeah, I mean, Cooper's a different dog. I mean, he's so very much happier.
Oh, he's such a beautiful boy.
I've shown Jane. You can just see by his face. If dogs could smile, I mean, he's definitely smiling.
So if somebody said to you a few years prior that, you know, there was somebody and who was able to do that and help your dog in such a way, would you ever believe them?
No, I mean, I didn't really at the time. I just, you know, I didn't believe until Jane spoke to him and how he was after and the results. You know, I don't really believe in that type of thing. Well, maybe I do now, but yeah, no, I didn't believe it before. It was just, I was so sad for our dog and just wanted to help however I could. You know, the vets couldn't help, nobody could help. But well, maybe people do believe in these things, and maybe it is, you know, maybe it is real. So, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for Karis and sharing that little bit of insight with us.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Karis.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
So what sorts of things, Jane, would people like expect? Like if they were to come to you and they had a little, you know, a troubled animal, and like Karis rightly pointed out, you know, these animals are having a few symptoms or feel out of sorts, and they're taking them to the vet, and the vet's saying that there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of people don't think, oh, actually, maybe there's something nutritionally wrong with them, you know?
And that's the really interesting thing. I think, you know, the vet with Keris and Cooper actually said, well, maybe he's fed up with life. And I was like, he's 4 years of age. Of course he's not fed up with life. There's issues here that need to be sorted. And, you know, like when I started this journey, Michelle, I never thought for a second that I would be in this place at this time now. And I would have had so many successes with the animals that I've been with. But, you know, if somebody comes to me, and I've had several, just for example, a few weeks ago, a beautiful lady over in New Zealand came to me. Her cat was pulling her fur out. She'd had a fairly traumatic time. My friend she was a lady that I knew that was in the same group. At that point, we weren't friends. And this is the lovely thing as well. I actually end up friends with these people, which is really, really nice. But, you know, she'd come along to me. She said, I watched you on one podcast, and I wondered if you could help with my cat. She's pulling out her fur. She's very anxious. She's not very cuddly. She's very shy and reserved. And can you help? And I said, well, sure, I'll give it a go, you know, because you go into these things you don't know, do you? Because I'm human. So I'm not like, it's not always going to work perfectly every single time. So I went in, I released her emotions, and I had a chat with her, you know, connected, we spoke. The next day, I said to Rachel, keep an eye on her overnight, because she was pulling out her fur. And in human terms, I guess it's a bit like self-harming, right? She got comfort from pulling out her fur. Something would upset her, she'd pull out her fur, and she'd got a massive bald patch like this on the side of her body. Anyway, the next day, Rachel contacted me and she said, Jane, this is the worst I've ever seen it. She's pulling this out after what you've done. And I was, for a minute there, you get this second of going, oh my goodness, what's happened? And then I went, hey, she's processing, right? This stuff is all coming up to get rid of, the same way as we all heal, and I said, just bear with it. And then the next day she started to slow down, and then she stopped. And she actually sent me a picture on the 2nd of January of the bald patch. And she sent me a picture on the 29th of January, and the hair's all grown back, and she stopped doing it. She had a real fear of men. And in that time, after I'd spoken to her and released her emotions, Rachel's sister and her other half had gone over to New Zealand. And she, even though she wasn't, she didn't climb all over him, she wound herself around his legs, and she rubbed herself against him like a completely different cat. And, I was absolutely thrilled, right? You can just imagine. I was so thrilled, and I was like, oh, I can't believe that, this is just so fantastic. And then she contacted me a couple of weeks ago, and she said, hey, she's pulling again. And I was like, oh my word, why? What's going on? And she'd had somebody come round, and they'd been on the roof, and she'd got herself in a bit of a mess. And those old self-limiting patterns came around again, and she just pulled her fur for a little bit. I went back in. There was another layer of emotions, just as there would be with a human, to release. I released those, and now she stopped again. So, each time we can recognize the trigger and you can see what's happened, you can go in and help them again. So that's what I did.
Wow.
So, that's kind of how I help them. I go in, I release the emotions. And a lot of the time, Michelle, it's a learning curve for me too. Like with this cat, she, I didn't think about the fact that she'd have more and more layers, but she did. So it's learning for me.
No, and that's obviously something that we often don't think about. I mean, if we were to really think about it, like some of the animals have had a rough start to their lives. And you can see when an animal's been mistreated, and you would then go towards them, they would cower away. So that, that's definitely emotions there, behaviors there. And like you rightly said, she was treating her anxiousness by pulling out hair. And I mean, this is a question that, and I'd like to put out to you, like, animals are always around there for us. So could there also be something that they pick up all our traumas and our hurt that they also carry within themselves? And we often don't think about, the impact that they might be having to go through because they're there for us emotionally a lot of the time.
Absolutely, 100% they do. Yeah, I mean, there's the well-known fact, of course, that cats will absorb any negativity that you have, and then they release it when they sleep. And if they can't release it, they get fat and lazy. And two of my cats, when I first started my journey, put on a lot of weight. And then all of a sudden, as I was healing, they lost the weight, which was really interesting. But yeah, for sure, I can keep using examples, of course, which are great. The lady that Keris knew, my friend Claire, she does healing too. She doesn't speak to the animals, but she does healing and the releasing of the emotions. And her and I worked on a cat last year. With another lady, and that lady that had come to us asking for some help, and we worked with her cat, and then found out she'd got tumors, inoperable tumors in her stomach. And you can imagine that's huge, right? That's a massive challenge. And Claire kind of knew this lady anyway a little bit, and she knew that this lady had been suffering with a lot of stress herself, and the cat had absorbed so much of that stress,
Right.
So we actually had her working with the cat as well, and just stroking her and saying, you know, you don't have to absorb my emotions, that's all fine, as well as playing music which would help with the tumours. We also went in and healed, and we released the emotions. When she left the vets, I believe, after she had the first diagnosis, she was just given weeks. She's still alive now. And this was last May. So she's still going strong. We've been in a couple of times and cleared some more emotions out of her. We've spoken to her owner, what's changed, what's this, what's that. Let's stick with this protocol. This has worked. And it's all been natural healing. She's had no medication. She hasn't been back to the vets. She's eating, she's put on weight, she's running around, she's very happy. So, you know, a lot of those, we both believe, as well as the owner, she will also say this, that those tumours or what she had was absorbed from the owner and her stress and her husband's stress and the family stress, you know, just everything that was going on. The cat had absorbed all of that trauma. And we don't do that, you know, on purpose. Good gracious. Because we're a work, well, we're certainly Australia and England countries of huge animal lovers. So no one would give their animal any trauma with, or you'd like to think not anyway, you know, deliberately. But they're here for reasons. Animals come down here, they're aligned with, they're divinely aligned with the people that they need to be with, that they're there teaching the lessons. And in that time, of course, you know, they love their owner, and they will absorb the trauma of the owner. You know, if you scream in your house, your animals will just disappear, don't they? They just run away. They're petrified. Well, some of that fear will stay in their body, and that's what we release.
Yeah. So what would you advise? What could we do more for our pets to help them?
As in, you know, avoid giving them any traumas and trapped emotions. I think, you know, be genuinely careful around, you know, treat them like you treat your children, right? You know, treat them with that love, treat them with that care. Remember that they're just as important in your life as your humans. You know, they've got feelings too. They're souls, as we're souls, you know. So just think before, you know, you scream or you know, go berserk at them, or you, like, I saw a video the other day of a lady that left her dog deliberately. She left him and hid in the bushes to show people how the animal behaves when their owners disappear, and they can't find them. And this dog was absolutely traumatized, you know. And most people wouldn't go around doing that, but you know, at the moment we've got a real animal crisis going on in the world at the moment. You know, I know certainly in Australia we've got so many animals that have been dumped, that are coming through as strays because of the cost of living. You know, the pounds and the councils and the shelters are overrun with animals, and so many of these animals come in with just such anxiety because they've got no clue. They've got no clue why they're suddenly in a shelter or why they're suddenly on the street. You know, I've worked with a cat just recently who started to pee everywhere because his owner stopped giving him any attention at all. I mean, he's moved on to another home, but he was peeing everywhere because he was given no attention. Like, literally, he was no longer included in anything. He had the doors shut. He wasn't allowed in certain rooms, you know, because the lady had a child, and I totally get that this is a newborn baby, but obviously it was almost like that older child syndrome. Do you know what I mean? Where they hadn't been included, and he felt very left out, and he was very jealous of the baby in the end. And yeah, he would just pee wherever to get some attention, to be where he would, you know, where he felt comfortable. If he could smell his own pee, then I'll sit here because it's comfortable for me. So, you know, I've been working with him just in last week and a half, and I've stopped him at the moment. You know, he's calmed down, and we've had a conversation, and he'll be moving on from where he is. He's staying with the lady at the moment, and she loves him, and we've got him calm and sorted again. But you know, it's just that sort of awareness around how your behaviors can affect your animal, you know, and they do so hugely.
And most people, I suppose, in that situation wouldn't automatically register that the dog's doing it for attention. They would automatically go, oh, bad dog, which would probably make the situation even worse.
Yeah, well, this was a cat, but yeah, same thing. And you know, cats are not dirty creatures. They don't just pee somewhere for the sake of peeing. They pee in their litter tray. They're clean animals. So if they're starting to pee somewhere that they shouldn't, then there's something wrong. You know, and it's just that awareness, bringing your awareness, and it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to. You just have to be aware of the fact that, you know, this can affect the animal. You know, I have a friend who's got a rescue cat, and every time she brings it, and a dog actually, she's another friend with a dog, and both of them, if they bring the broom out, both animals scarper. They're just completely, they run away because they were actually threatened with the broom in their previous houses. You know, I mean, that's obviously huge because there was an abuse there. But, you know, it's just raising awareness, I think, more than anything, of what your actions can do to affect an animal.
Yeah, no, definitely. So if we did have somebody, I mean, if anyone is listening to the show and did think like, okay, maybe there is a behavioral element or a trapped emotion to my animal, what's the process in getting in touch with you, Jane?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram under Pure Soul Chatz, and that's chats with a Z. You can contact me on puresoulchatz@gmail.com. But probably Facebook and Instagram is the easiest. If you give me a call and we'll have a chat. And the process is that I will go in and, dependent on what it is we need to know as to whether I release the emotions first or second, if you need to know part of their past and why they're behaving the way they do, often it's better to talk to them first and then I release their emotions. And then any healing that I'm guided to do, I will do remotely from here, which is still incredible to me that can be done, but it can. So I give Reiki to my family over in the UK, which is quite bizarre, isn't it? But yeah, so I can go in and do any Reiki that's needed to be done, any healing that I'm guided to do, and I always keep in touch. That's the other thing, you know, when I don't just contact, if somebody contacts me and decides that they need my help, I do help and I do stay in touch. There will be every so often I will contact and say, hey, how are we doing? What's going on? Have we got any problems? I spoke to Keris the other day, obviously, about coming on here. And I said to her, how is Coop? Because I hadn't spoken to him for a little while. And she said, oh, he was a bit anxious yesterday. He went to the vets. And I said, oh, I'll just connect in and see if there's anything there. And he had an emotion trapped in his leg there. So I just cleared that away for him. So, yeah, that's basically what you need to do. Just contact me. I will need a picture of your animal, full face and body. I like a bit of a backstory if you have it, name and age, and then we go from there.
Wow, that sounds pretty amazing. You mentioned when, like, just so people have a clearer understanding too, you clear it. So you mentioned earlier about connecting like energetically and stuff. So these things like that you would ordinarily pick up, and then you go through a releasing process. Is that right?
Yeah. So I will go in and connect with the animal. I go outside, I ground myself. I have a barefoot on the grass and, you know, connect in with me and make sure that I'm grounded and in a good place. You know, I do some breath work, make sure that I'm at peace with myself and everything is good. I will then, there's a certain place I stand in my house that I've found works for me, and I will connect in. I will, and I will just say before I go any further that I am just a very small part of this amazing team. I have guides, ascended masters. I have a healing team in the spirit world that and angels that I call in for help, and I ask them to help. I send the animal huge amount of love, and then I connect in and I ask the questions, and then find out from them where it is, what the emotion is, what part of the body it is. Then I release it, and then we go on to the second one. And if the animal, I mean, animals are not huge, right? Unless they're an elephant, but not many people keep those as pets. But, cats and dogs, they're normally quite small. So if they have a lot of emotions, I'm often only allowed to release one or two at a time. And then I go in a couple of days later and release some more. So that's how I do it. And then I connect my heart to their heart, and I call their name and say, I want to have a chat. And I put me and them in a bubble. I wrap them in my arms. I put them in a bubble and I talk to them. That's,
Wow.
That's the way I see it. And, but what's really quite interesting is, as I said to you earlier, when I very first started doing this, I was, I'd be laying down, I'd be trying so hard to connect in and not believing what I was going. Oh, and have I got that? And have I got this? And, but now I look at the photo, I connect myself with the animal, and I learn that often sometimes I'll only get one word, often maybe a sentence. And it takes a couple of 3 times. I will connect in, and then I can put it all together. I'll go out for a run, something will come in, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is. And then I put it together. There are other animals. There was a dog that I spoke to just a few weeks ago from a lady that I trained Reiki with. And she said, oh, can you talk to my dog? She's doing this, this, and this. And I connected in with that. And literally it was just, I didn't even have to try. She was there. She was like, oh, and she was all like, crazy and happy and just all over the place and very young and bouncy. And her personality just came straight through. Whereas there's been a couple of times where I've had to connect in 2 or 3 times to be able to get one word out of an animal. So, yeah, they're always a little bit, every animal is a little bit different. But, yeah, and that's, I ask them if I can talk to them. I tell them who I am. I tell them why I'm there. I explain what I'm going to do. Are they okay with me releasing those emotions? This is how they possibly will feel. So we have, a conversation, and I can always see them in my head. Sometimes I see them as they would look as a human, which is really bizarre. Like one dog actually showed me that if he was a human, he'd be like wearing a flat cap and sitting there with a little check shirt on and stuff like that.
Oh,
It was
wow.
really bizarre.
Actually, they do say something on the lines of the dogs look similar to the owners or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Yeah. And I'd never met the owner, but this dog showed me this. And also I get their voice. So I can hear their voices. But for me, I'm not huge. I don't get the visions as much as I mean, I do occasionally, but for me, it's more about a feeling, a knowing. I've got an inner knowing about things,
Right.
and it's not just about the animals. I have an inner knowing about many things that happen, and to do with humans as well as animals, and I don't know how I know. I really don't know how I know, but I just trust that knowing. And I would say 99% of the time I'm pretty spot on. We had a bit of a joke at work several months ago now. One of the girls at work was called to doggy daycare because her dog had hurt himself, and they said, well, he's bleeding. And I happened to be walking past, and I said, yeah, he's got a nail in his front left foot. And she looked at me and she went, how do you know? And I was like, I don't know, I just know. So she goes off and picks him up, and she rings me up, and I went, he's got a nail in his front left foot, isn't he? And she goes, how did you know that? I don't know how I knew that. I don't know how this stuff happens, but it does. And, I'm incredibly humbled by it. I never I will never, ever not be humbled by such an amazing gift. And I'm always so incredibly grateful to be able to do this, because, you know, animals need to be championed, don't they? You know, and I feel like it's my soul journey and my soul mission to help as many animals in this world as I possibly can. And so, you know, every single night I thank my spirit team that are here to help me. And I always say thank you, and, you know, send so much love, because I've been able to help so many animals doing this. And that's what I'm here to do.
That is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I wish I had your gift.
Oh, but you see, people say that, but you do. Like, I truly believe that anyone can energetically connect, and it's just it's being in the. I think I believe that we come here with our own soul journeys. We know what we're here to do, and, you know, it's taken me till now to really discover this amazing gift. But this is my journey now, and other people have other journeys that take them to different places as well. And I'm just I think I will always try and remain as authentic as, you know, as I know how to be, and as humble as I know how to be, because, you know, you're just grateful. You're so grateful. You know, when someone contacts me and says, my cat is so different, my chicken is not doing this anymore, my dog is not doing that, you know, it's an amazing feeling, and it just helps me to know that I'm helping humanity, you know. And on top of that, I get to help in the shelters and, you know, that sort of thing as well. I've made it my mission to try and put into shelters all the animals that come into the vets as strays, you know. So that's like another part of what I do, and just, you know, I can connect in and help those animals and calm them down. And, you know, and often it's not always about the energies. You know, I can tell you that there's something wrong with your dog. I can tell you what I've found, but I also get guidance on how they can fix it as well. You know, put some fish oil in your diet, take the biscuits away. This is the reason your dog's itching. This is why your cat's behaving in this manner. Also, let's do this, which is a practical thing that I would know from working in the animal world anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, it feels like I can put everything together.
Which sounds absolutely wonderful, to be honest.
I know, and one day I can do this forever, full time. That's my wish. I put it out there to the universe. Please, I'd love to do this all the time, because they deserve it, right?
Definitely,
they truly
100%.
deserve it.
I definitely think you should be doing this full time, to be honest.
Thank
So
you.
if there is anybody out there that give it a go, I would say, you know, there's nothing to lose. If you do find that your animals are not at their best, or even if you just wanted to find out a little bit more about them, I wish there were times where I could, like, I look at my dogs and I try to, like, oh, just tell me what you think. So I often do that. Please, what was that? You know. So if you do want to find out a little bit more, then please, you know, contact Jane. And I'm sure she'll be gladly be helpful to help.
I'd love to help. Yeah, and also, you know, if you've got an animal that's passed and you have some questions, contact me. I can, you know, I was very much able to help a friend just a few weeks ago when she had to, her dog had to leave her side to go home, and I helped her. I helped the dog remotely transition to the point of leaving, and I brought in her friend who'd passed a couple of years ago. I was able to bring her in, and, you know, it was incredibly peaceful. It was really beautiful, and the dog sort of stood there, was going, come on, old girl, come on, it's time to come over here. And it was a beautiful moment, and, you know, my friend was so eternally grateful that that was made so beautiful. But, you know, I didn't know until maybe 3 or 4 months into doing this that I could contact animals that have passed as well. So just as I can with humans, I can do it with animals. And, you know, I've been able to help, as in with Keris, and Cooper was just distraught that Nala was there one day and then she'd gone the next. And I was able to bring her in and just, and she stayed with Coop while we got him right. And I was able to tell Keris what Nala had passed away from, because she didn't know.
Right.
So, you know, again, that just gives you that peace, right? It just gives you the peace of knowing that you did the right thing.
Definitely. Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jane. That has
You're
been
very
so
welcome.
insightful. Is there anything else you would like to leave the viewers with?
Just love your animals, guys.
Yeah.
Because they're so special.
Yeah.
You know, they're just so perfect. And my cats are actually, in Australia, you can't have your cats outside. So my cats have got this huge enclosure outside in the garden. And
What, they can't walk outside?
No, they're not allowed to wander. No,
Oh, wow.
They have to be kept enclosed because of the wildlife. So yeah, it's and where I live, I had to have a special license to have the 3, because you're actually only allowed 2 here in Queensland. So yeah, you have to keep them. I don't know if you have to in other states. I think it is a country thing in Australia that you have to keep your cats not indoors, but they have to be enclosed. So my cats have got like the Buckingham Palace of enclosures out there. They don't appreciate it. I tell them how lucky they are all the time, but they really don't appreciate it. But they come in here and they're absolutely going crazy tonight. So I think we've got a lot of planetary activity going on at the moment, and the animals are very affected by that as well. You know, when we have a new moon or a full moon, or, you know, Pluto's moving into Aquarius and all of that sort of thing, they are quite affected by it. So yeah, just bear with them if they go a bit crazy. Like for them at the moment, the energies are a bit weird. They're not eating, then they'll eat like loads. So
Right.
yeah, a bit like us, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just wanted to end off by saying, you know, if you are thinking about getting a pet, you know, think about it properly. It's, you know, they are a responsibility, and they do need looking after, and they do need attention. And if you can't provide that responsibility or that attention, don't do it just yet. You know, don't do
the right thing.
Yeah.
And don't have one. Don't have one.
Don't have one until you feel that you at least are able to accept the responsibility with regard to
100. Yeah,
deserve it. They honestly don't deserve it.
They really don't. And I work in a vet's full time now, and in the last 3 weeks we've had 25 cats come into the vets that have been found or surrendered, or, you know, and they're kittens, mother cats, not deep, and we can't find the owners, and they're out there. We put them out there on Facebook. We, you know, and they stay in the vets with us for 3 days before we find a shelter for them, because we try not to send them to the pound, because the pounds are not good places for the animals to go these days. And, you know, and it's not just here. It's not just in Australia. I know it's in England as well, because I have many friends here in England, and it's just happening everywhere. So, you know, if you're going to have a pet, then please, please, please microchip your pet, so that, you know, and I'm not a big fan of, you know, going down Western medicine and stuff like that. I'd much rather do things naturally, but where microchipping is concerned, please do it, because we could have your pet back with you within an hour. Instead, they're gone for 4 or 5 days, and sometimes months, and you never get them back. So, you know, it is that, as you say, the whole responsibility around having a pet, and, you know, desexing them and keeping them safe, and they're part of your family.
Yeah, and not getting them and just using them for your own personal ideas of, because there is also a lot of aggressive dogs and stuff like that, and a lot of people are teaching dogs to be aggressive and stuff, and teaching aggression for whatever selfish reasons they want to do. And I don't believe dogs are naturally aggressive.
No.
I think it's something that they
not the
take.
dog, it's the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will I'm like you, I thoroughly believe that, and I will always argue that point because, you know, I also know what's going on over in England at the moment with the XL breeds, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking that these animals are suffering because of a small amount of people, you know, and it's not just that, you know, we're also asking vets who, like doctors, take an oath of do no harm. We're asking them to put healthy animals to sleep. It's not it's not good, it's not great, and it needs to change.
Yeah.
The situation needs to change because imagine mentally what that must do to a vet who's gone into the industry because they love the animal, and they're having to put healthy animals to sleep. And you know, we could debate this, Michelle, all night, and you know, I'm sure that there'll be people out there that will disagree with me, and you know, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. My focus and my world is about keeping an animal safe, secure, and happy, and that's all I care about. You know, I'm not going to get into big arguments with anyone about, you know, what dog should be, what is it. I'm with you. I 100% agree that dogs are not born aggressive. Unfortunately, it's, you know, this happens, and I know that each case needs to be taken on its own merit, but when it's a blanket legislation to put healthy animals to sleep, there's something very wrong about that.
Exactly.
And you know, it has to change.
I
just can't believe. And I watch and I listen, and you know, I've watched a bit on Facebook where you know, the people are rising. They're saying no. The vets, there's 75% of the vets out there have said no. The other 25 will come good eventually. I truly believe that. 75% of the vets in England have said they will not put a healthy animal to sleep. And you know, that just says everything about the British people. I think, you know, that's the point of being proud that, you know, as English people, that they stand up and want to be counted, and they say, they live in the UK, you are not doing this, we are not putting these animals to sleep, you know, and that is not what we trained for. So, you know, I have to say that's just that's great. But yeah, look after your animals.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we've got to do, because otherwise us as human beings are just going to land up in a position where we are going to get rid of animals altogether. And then we might be in, you know, 100 years' time with no animals walking around because of our own actions, you know?
Well, that's already happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many wild animals are now extinct?
Yeah.
Because of poachers and because of what the humans, what us as humans have done. So, you know, it's going to go down a line, and it will continue until people, you know, stop doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So, I will always, in my world, I will always champion the animal, you know, and I have a big sign on my Facebook page that says, you know, and here's Eddie. This is Eddie, who just thought he'd pop in and say hello.
Well,
Good evening.
He's making an appearance. He definitely knows we're talking about.
Oh, he does. Yeah. He's my lion, right? He's a big ginger boy. And it's my mission in the world to save as many as I can. And I think, you know, that's excuse me 1 second. No, you can't come on TV. No. There's a pretty
well, I think he's trying to communicate with us, Jane, right now.
Yeah, he is. He likes to be. He's actually, I think he was born a cat, but he used to be a dog, didn't you, Edward? Because he follows me everywhere, and everywhere I am, he is. And so me sitting up here at the kitchen bench, he's like, no, I need to be up here too. And he's not actually allowed up here, I should say. So he's being a bit naughty. But anyway, there he is.
Yeah, no, but going back to what you're saying, I think just, you know, you were mentioning about always being a champion, and please continue to do what you're doing, because I'm definitely a massive supporter.
That's wonderful. And if any of your guys watching this want to contact me between now and the end of March, there's 10% off.
Fantastic.
So,
Guys.
yeah, 10%.
Get,
So,
get in
you know,
touch.
yeah, get in touch. If I can help you, truly I will. Even if you just want to chat, just give me a shout.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jane, for
No, thank you.
Well,
all right.
I think 10 hours ahead, but we managed to get a time in, didn't we?
We did. Yes, I'm going to go and sit and have a cocoa now. No, I'm not really.
Enjoy that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.